They lied when they told you to be good. They told you that goodness alone would earn you power, protection, and peace. That if you were kind enough, honest enough, humble enough, the world would reward you. But the truth is colder than that. You don't need to be good, you need to be useful. Because in this world, power does not bend to virtue, it bends to value. You want to be liked. That's your first mistake. You beg for approval, praise, acceptance from people who would forget your name the moment you fall. You waste your energy trying to appear righteous, trying to be gentle in a world that respects only force. But I tell you now, morality is a luxury, not a requirement, not a shield. It is a tool, a mask you wear when the time demands it, and a weapon you draw when the mask no longer works. When I wrote The Prince, I did not write it for saints. I wrote it for survivors, for men who understand that power is not given, it is taken, and it is kept through fear, usefulness, and calculated restraint. A man who strives to be entirely good must come to ruin among so many who are not good. If you walk into the world with nothing but honesty and kindness, you will be devoured, because the wolves recognize the scent of weakness, and they do not hesitate. What protects you is not your goodness. It is your utility, your skill, your leverage. If the world cannot afford to lose you, it will not touch you. If you provide value, you will be respected. If you build power, you will be feared. But if you are only good, you are disposable. And the second your goodness becomes inconvenient, they will throw you to the fire, smiling all the while. The modern world worships virtue only because it has grown soft. It teaches men to be tame, obedient, gentle, passive. Why? Because strong men are dangerous, because useful men are unpredictable, because they cannot be controlled. It is much more secure to be feared than to be loved. You recoil at that, but only because you've been conditioned to. You've been told fear is evil, but it is not. Fear is order. Fear is control. Fear is the oldest form of respect. Even love is fragile. It fades, it turns. But fear lingers. Fear makes men hesitate. Fear keeps your enemies silent, and when wielded with precision, it commands more than any desperate attempt at being liked ever could. So how does one become useful? You become irreplaceable. You become the man who brings results, the man who solves problems others fear, the man who controls the temperature of the room with a glance. You master something no one else can. You say less but mean more. You walk in silence but move like a storm when required. You train yourself into rarity because usefulness, true usefulness, is the only kind of power that cannot be stolen. And when you pair that usefulness with the appearance of virtue, you become untouchable, because the crowd, as I wrote, is always taken by appearances. They believe what they see, so let them see kindness, let them see warmth, let them see mercy. But let that mercy be calculated. Let that smile be earned, because behind your eyes, behind your calm, they must sense what would happen if you were provoked. You don't need to announce your strength. You don't need to bark. You need only make them wonder. Let them question what you're capable of. Let them fear the consequences of disrespecting you. Let your silence become the most terrifying thing in the room. People are loyal when it serves them. They are kind when it costs them nothing. They are trustworthy until tested. So don't place your security in the morality of others. Place it in your control over them. Place it in your ability to walk away, to disappear, to withhold what they want. That is power. And that power is built not on goodness, but on position. They will call you ruthless. Let them. They will call you cold. Good. You must let go of this childish obsession with being seen as good, because no empire was ever built on kindness alone. No throne was ever held with softness. No kingdom was protected by virtue that could not draw blood when needed. The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. These are not the words of a monster. They are the words of a realist, because sometimes the world changes. Sometimes the alliance breaks. Sometimes the kind man must become the necessary one. So stop asking for permission. Stop hoping to be understood. Stop confusing decency with strength. Be useful. Be needed. Be the man no one dares to offend. Not because you are cruel, but because you are critical, because you matter, because without you, things fall apart. And here's what most men never understand. The moment you stop needing to be perceived as good, you become free. Free to act when others hesitate. Free to say no without guilt. Free to withdraw your energy like a king pulling soldiers from a battlefield. That's when your influence starts to grow, quietly, beneath the surface. People won't say it aloud, but they'll start treating you differently. They'll speak softer. Watch their words. Why? Because even if they don't understand it, they feel the weight of a man who no longer asks for approval. This is when you begin to bend the frame of every room you walk into. You don't speak often, but when you do, people listen. You don't threaten, but your silence speaks volumes. And you never chase, because a man who is truly useful does not pursue people. He attracts gravity. He makes others wonder where they stand. That wonder, that uncertainty, it's power. In The Prince, I wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. Appearances are everything, but only when they hide the truth, not replace it. Never make the mistake of choosing visibility over value. Attention is not power. Approval is not strength. Fame is not fear. I would rather be unknown and irreplaceable than known and irrelevant. You should aim for the same, because value is what keeps doors open, not sentiment. People will praise your morality right up until the moment it costs them something. Then they will turn. They always turn. But if you are useful, if you solve their problems, if you control something they need, then they will tolerate your silence. They will endure your absence. They will bend rules for you. That is how the real world works, not on morality, but on dependence. Understand this clearly. Emotion is a liability. You can feel, yes, but never broadcast those feelings. You can suffer, but you suffer quietly. You can love, but never at the expense of leverage. Because the more emotion you give away, the more control you lose. The moment they know what moves you, they own you. The moment they sense your guilt, they manipulate you. The moment they see you crave peace, they use chaos against you. That's why the strong man appears calm, composed, untouchable. It's not that he feels nothing. It's that he refuses to let others weaponize what he feels. That is true discipline. That is power held in check, and the world respects it deeply. Let others wear their heart on their sleeve. Let them whine about how unfair the world is. Let them cry for justice in a world built on transaction. You will learn the art of useful detachment. You will learn to watch without reacting, listen without offering, and move only when movement gives you something, because in the game of power, every action must be bought. Every word must be weighed. Every move must serve the long war. And you will stop playing short games. You will stop chasing applause. You will stop giving without strategy. Because the man who gives freely, without limit, without return, is not noble. He is naive. He is an easy target. And in the end, he is discarded with less respect than the most calculated tyrant. Even kindness, when given without consequence, becomes worthless. It is not your softness that will be remembered. It is your standard. It is your discipline. It is the way you made people earn you. Because when something is free, it is taken for granted. But when it must be earned, it becomes sacred. You must learn to control perception like a weapon. Let people think you're merciful. Let them believe you're fair. But always, always know the real cost of extending grace. And if that cost is not returned tenfold, you withdraw it without apology. That's not cruelty. That's intelligent rule. It's the principle I lived by in Florence, and it's the same law that governs power today. Even in your modern sanitized world, look back at history and not the fairy tales, but the real power struggles. Show me one man who held the throne through honesty alone, one ruler who trusted everyone and survived. You won't find him because he died. Or worse, he was forgotten. You see, the throne doesn't belong to the most righteous. It belongs to the most prepared, the most feared, the most necessary, and sometimes the most deceptive. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. That's what I wrote, and it remains one of the most useful truths a man can live by. So let this be your doctrine. Stop asking to be seen. Become needed. Stop begging to be heard. Become unavoidable. Because in the end, it's not the good man who survives. It's the useful one. The most dangerous men I've known were not loud. They didn't boast. They didn't flex. They never needed to. They walked into rooms like storms wearing silence because everyone already knew. If they decided to move, someone would bleed. That's what you must become. A man whose usefulness is so deeply embedded, they cannot afford to offend you. Not because you'll rage, but because you might leave. That's how you win wars without swinging a sword, by making your absence more terrifying than your presence. The useful man does not negotiate from emotion. He doesn't beg for fairness. He doesn't cry about injustice. He adapts. He plots. He prepares. He understands that fairness is a myth told by the weak to stop the strong from advancing. But the useful man, he uses the myth to distract, to pacify, to remain undetected until he strikes. You want to change your life? Then stop trying to be accepted and start building leverage. Stop advertising your pain and start monetizing your power. The world is not moved by stories of how much you've suffered. It moves for the man who turned that suffering into strategy, into results, into value. And here's the secret. You don't even have to be the best. You just have to be the one they can't replace. You can be imperfect, but essential. That's the difference between the man who's applauded and the man who is obeyed. Because loyalty isn't given, it's purchased. Sometimes with risk, sometimes with silence, sometimes with the kind of calm pressure that reminds people just how precarious their position is and just how critical you are to their survival. Make them need you, then disappear. Watch what happens. If they chase, you have leverage. If they don't, you were never as valuable as you thought. Use that data. Adjust accordingly. Don't take it personally. Take it strategically. Build your worth like a fortress, in layers. Make it cost time, energy, and commitment to gain access to you. Make people earn your knowledge, your support, your time, because the man who gives everything to everyone, he is soon left with nothing for himself. In The Prince, I wrote, men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear. But modern men, they want to be loved without merit. They want affection without effort, respect without results. That is not power, that is delusion, and the world does not tolerate deluded men. It chews them up, dresses them in therapy slogans, and tosses them aside while stronger men take their place. Because no one wants to admit it, but strength is still king, and usefulness is how that strength gains currency. So train your mind like a weapon. Speak only when it builds capital. Walk only where it increases reach. Show up when it shifts balance. Withdraw when your value is being drained. In time, they'll either pay what you're worth, or they'll fall trying to replace you. And you'll keep building, not for praise, not for applause, but for dominion. Because the man who is both feared and needed, he does not just survive this world, he bends it.